Howdy y'all, if you're new here, thanks for stopping by. We're going to be continuing the Audi fixer-up project for my son, and the cat wants to say high five. She's always out here in the shop with me. It broke my wife's heart when she found this in the glove box of this car. And that's a cam follower for the high-pressure fuel pump on this Audi A4. And you better believe I'm going to honor my son's wishes. That's his handwriting, and you bet I'm going to do it. And I'm going to take care of this for him. We're going to be working on the cam follower on the fuel pump. We're going to get that out of there. I don't know that it's ever been done. Now this is a common maintenance item because that cam can actually wear a hole through that tappet and cause damage to the camshaft, and then you're looking at a whole top end for your engine to fix that. And I frankly don't know what to expect once we get in there. I don't know if this has ever been done. Hopefully there's not any substantial damage. Hopefully this is a quick fix. But I've got my fingers crossed. Before I even attempted to take it out of there, I picked up an O-ring. This is a Euro Parts URO-009875 O-ring. We didn't have one with the cam follower, but I thought it'd be a good time to replace it. First off, we're going to disconnect our battery. I've already done that. I did that last night after my test start, after the timing belt. We're going to want to release this fitting here. And most of these Volkswagen Audi ones, you can just push them in, push down this release here in the back. It takes a lot of effort sometimes, and they'll pull right off. The kitty's going to kindly point that out for us. I'm going to unclip this clip here, where this vacuum line and this other fuel line are, so I can kind of move them and keep them out of my way. Kind of hard to see, but right here with my fingers on, there's a Schrader valve. Just like on a tire, but bigger. And that has a plastic cap on it. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew that. I know I'm probably going to get some flack in the comment sections, and this is probably not the proper way to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I'm going to stuff a rag back down in here, underneath that Schrader valve, and back behind the engine here, to kind of catch any fuel that might come out of there. And you'll want to make sure for sure that you take that rag out of there, because you do not want a gasoline-soaked rag back here. That'd be kind of dangerous. I use this little pocket pry bar and just kind of release that Schrader valve so we can kind of back off any pressure that this system might still have. I'm going to be using this 13mm line wrench to crack that loose. I am expecting some fuel to spray, because the other way that you can relieve fuel pressure in this system is to pull the fuse for this fuel pump and then just run it till it runs out of fuel. And so far we got very minor amount of fuel leakage, but I can definitely smell it. I'm going to remove this, I guess it's a PCV air breather tube. You squeeze in on either side here, and should be able to pull this off. When you squeeze in on each side, it releases it. There we go. Needed two hands for that one. And you want to be careful because this plastic is very brittle. I'm also going to take this clip out of here that holds that fuel line and that vacuum line, just to get a little bit more out of our way. And you can see it just kind of slides onto that bracket there. There is another fitting down there, electrical fitting, that I'm going to need to take off, but I'll do that after I get the fuel pump out of there, so I've got a little bit more room to work on it. Next, I'm going to remove that bolt right there and take this bracket off. Oh, you guessed it. That's going to be a 10mm. Okay. Now we can see the other bolt on the fuel pump that we need to get out. I'm going to go ahead and remove this vent here. It unclips the same way. Now you can see the fuel pump a lot better. And we're going to have a bolt there on the back where my finger is, and two here on the top. We didn't have a lot of pressure in this system, but I'm going to remove this so we can get to that bottom bolt in there. And the rag should catch most of the fuel that comes out of there. Down there, clear underneath, there's the fuel lines going into the fuel pump. And you can see that big nut right there. That's going to take a 17mm wrench. Break loose the nut down below the fuel line going into the fuel pump. And I'm going to use this stubby wrench. There we go. Should break loose relatively easily, and then you can take it off the remainder of the way by hand. And I went ahead and unplugged this, and I'm going to take this clamp off of here so I can get that further out of my way. This is my first time doing this, so I'm kind of learning as I go. They got that clamp loose. It should pull off of there. There we go. Now I can get all of that mess out of my way. Look at that, voila! I can get my hand under there. Finish unscrewing that. Now you can see the nut has came off of there. Right there, I got it loose. And so let's take the fuel pump loose. It looks like they're going to be a T30 Torx. And this one over here on the bottom, closest to the firewall, is already loose. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. I like to start with the hardest one first. This is one of those cases, and I hate myself for saying this, where it would be easier on a front-wheel drive car. Okay. Now I'm going to take out the bolt here and the one here. I think that last one was stripped. That's why it came out kind of loose. I think I'll put some Loctite on it when I go back together. Now I think there's another return fuel line down there that's clamped on. I might need to take off, but we'll see here in a second. And these two bolts look okay. Looks like it's got a fairly new O-ring in it. And my fuel line here is holding me up. Just had to kind of get down in there and release that fuel line a little bit. Alright, and now we can get to this other electrical fitting here, so push and pull. There we go. And there's the O-ring. Oh, here's the moment of truth. Oh, it doesn't look bad at all. One thing about my son is he kept this meticulously maintained. It's definitely due, but it's not worn through to where it's damaged the cam. I've got the used one in my left hand. You can see there's some clear wear on there, as opposed to the one here on my right hand, which you can see the heat treating on it and everything. So we're going to go ahead and replace it. Now this is something that's recommended to inspect every oil change and replace every 30,000 miles. Which, whatever, boggles my mind, but I'm going to do it. So it's just a word of caution, because if this fails, it's going to destroy your cam, maybe your engine. You're going to have a lot of problems. So it's time. In case you're wondering, this is a INA 7110245-100 or VT0245 tappet. Now before I put anything in there, I'm going to clean this oil out. And yes, I'm going to change oil when we get done with this. Make sure we don't have any nasty things that got in there during this process. I'm going to put some ultra slick engine assembly lube on this tappet before I put it in there, because it's going to ride right on that cam. So we want to make sure it's good and lubricated. This stuff is super sticky. And in case you're wondering why we have this around here, check out my other content. We are rebuilding a 1939 Caterpillar D4. Alright, let's stick that in there. Okay. I'm going to get this O-ring out of here so we can replace it as well. It looks like somebody had done this tappet at some point, but it was definitely due. Okay. Out with the old, in with the new. Oh, that's a nice fit. Make sure you get it in the groove all the way around. Double check. Should do good. I'm going to put a little engine assembly lube on that O-ring and on this spring as well. This stuff goes a long way, so Not too terribly worried about it, but I want to get some on the end of that spring where that tappet rides. Because this spring is going to be what actuates and works the fuel pump. So, okay. Get that in there. Get our fuel pump back down in that tappet. And there we go. And it's going to help to start that lower fuel line as soon as you can. There we go. I got it snugged up by finger tight. I can get all my other bolts in before I snug everything up. And we've got our fuel line started. I'm going to put my 3 bolts in here and start them all by hand. I'm just going to take my T30 Torx and put a little down pressure by hand on this fuel pump and screw these bolts in. And that down pressure is just going to keep that O-ring seated until I can get the bolts up there snugged up to hold it. Those bolts are going to torque to about 10 Newton meters, which is like 7.5 foot-pounds, I think. And this is just going into aluminum, so you can strip these. And I kind of think that the one down here in the bottom of mine is already stripped. So I'm going to just snug it and leave it. Alright, with all those snugged up, I can snug up my fuel line down below. Yeah, that's tight enough. Before I forget, I'll clip in the wires. Nice click. Fitting down here. I believe this looks like it's been replaced. And if yours hasn't, there's an updated part number for these because of a premature failure. There we go. I talked through it, but yes, it clicked. Put our PCV vacuum line. Put it back on right there. Put that back in right there. And I'll tighten down that clamp. Next, I'll install my Schrader/bleeder valve that goes in the pump here, right there. We'll screw on our little plastic cap next. Protects the Schrader valve from getting dirt and stuff in it. And this one just can be snugged up by hand. No need for tools or pliers. We install our breather line. Again, you should hear the audible clicks. Perfect. Next, we'll install our bracket that holds these lines. And this little dog ear just goes behind this engine mount over here. And your bolt goes through from this side. Last thing, we're going to put our clamp back on there. The small one goes to the driver's side, and the big one to the passenger side. It just clamps on there like so. You want to kind of snake your lines through there. And there it is. So I'm going to get it running first. I'm going to cycle the key a few times to let the fuel pump build up pressure. And once I get it running, I'll come out here and check for leaks. Oh yeah, the lift fuel pump won't cycle if we don't plug the battery in. Okay, everything looks good. I'm not seeing any leaks. I'm not smelling any fuel. I think this one's done. Going to be doing more content on this Audi in the future. I've already done the timing belt, water pump, so if you're interested in that, I've got videos on that. Check those out. I'm going to be doing the brakes and an oil change as well. I do want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. And in the future, we're going to be doing the brakes shortly. In the future, we're going to do the brakes on another video. I'm going to pull this O-ring out of here and get it replaced as well. I'm going to pull this O-ring out of here so that we can replace it. I'm going to get this O-ring out of here so we can replace it as well. You've all been asking about pig stripes. I got her out here in the shop with me today. Hey, kitty. Bye. Meow. Oh. One in, one out. If you can't get enough LAOL content, consider a channel membership down below.